Tony, I don't know. See, I don't think I'm going to remember anybody's name. I just don't think I'd be comfortable there. I mean, everybody will be so Mediterranean.
Angela, you'll be fine. And besides, I gotta go. Mrs. Rossini's got some big surprise cooked up for me.
Oh, what kind of surprise?
Angela, if he knew that, it wouldn't be a surprise. Come on, Angela. Cut loose.
Oh, well, I guess I could go to Brooklyn and get down.
Don't hurt yourself, Angela. Listen, Angela, it'll be great. Come on, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll take the mousse and we'll even say you made it. Eh?
I did make it.
Well, hey, wait a minute. You didn't finish it. It still needs an egg.
Well, I can do that.
Well, just don't do it like last time. Bring it over here nice and easy.
Okay.
That's it, girl. Nice and easy.
Hello. Welcome back to Ayo. Oh, wait. Who's the Boss podcast. I'm Tori.
And I'm Kevin.
And we are here to rewatch and discuss every single episode of Who's the Boss. Today we are doing... Oh, you know what? Before we get started, I just want to say that I've gotten a few messages from people who have just said that, like, with all the stuff that's going on right now, that this has been a nice little, like, break and distraction for them. And that makes me so happy because that is exactly why we're doing this.
Yeah, it's what it's supposed to be.
Yes, it started out as a distraction for me, and so I'm so happy that if anyone else is getting a little bit of enjoyment or, you know, a break from it, then awesome. Yay!
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Okay, so today we're doing Season 2, Episode 9. It is Thanksgiving at Mrs. Rossini's. The TV Guide first aired November 26th on 1985. That would have been a Tuesday, so it could have been like the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, probably. And the TV Guide summary says, at Mrs. Rossini's Thanksgiving dinner, Angela is put off by Tony's treatment of a traditional woman. Traditional woman.
Traditional.
Like, she had all the things were in the traditional spots. Like, what is a traditional woman?
I don't know. We're about to find out, I think.
This was written by Dawn Aldridge and Judith Bustani or Bustany, I'm not sure. But two women writers on this episode. And I realized that this must have been... Their other episode was Sorority Sister, and it must have been one of the episodes that I forgot to say who it was written by.
The same two?
The same two, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So this is their second episode together. And I believe they both wrote about 7 or 8 episodes total. So when this episode opens, Tony and Angela are in the kitchen making, or I would say preparing for a Thanksgiving dinner.
Yes.
They don't really say what day it is, but I would imagine it's the day before Thanksgiving, because if you're like preparing a mousse, right. I don't know how long you'd keep that mousse in the fridge.
At least 12 hours. I'm just making that up. I don't know.
Sure. But no longer than 48, right? I mean, it has to be just like a day before.
Yeah.
So she's helping him, similar to how like a nurse used to hand a surgeon utensils. So he's asking for things and she's putting it in his hand. He's mixing up some whatever is going to be mousse in the bowl. Nutmeg, she hands that to him, and she's doing okay for being Angela. Little heavy hand on the nutmeg until she gets to the egg. So he calls for an egg, and she just completely smashes it into his hand. But he's
She was excited.
She was. She says cook. That. She's like, I'm so excited to cook. I've never made a Thanksgiving dinner before. Shocker. And they're very playful with each other. Like, he's not at all mad that she smashed the egg in his hand. He's kind of making fun of her for it. And I have to point out that turtleneck that she's wearing.
Oh, the one that looks like it's eating her face?
Yes. It is so big.
I know. I don't know.
Oh, my goodness.
It makes me want to rub and scratch my neck just looking at it.
It makes my neck hot and itchy.
Yes. That better description than I just said. Yes.
So,
that's exactly what it does.
Now Mona comes in here, and this is one of those things where, again, I just kind of... What Mona says here has nothing to do with anything else that happens in the rest of the episode. And I don't know if it was that they were planning to have another storyline or this was supposed to fit into the storyline somehow. But Mona comes into the kitchen and says, well, I finally figured out what it means when it says severe tire damage. So she had been driving Angela's car and went in reverse over one of those spiky things on the way out of like a car park or garage. So she busted up Angela's tires. And Angela goes running to the door to look, and Tony's like, don't look. And Angela says to her, I really don't think that I should have to pay for this. She's like, I don't like confrontation. Although we've just spent like 3 episodes of these two fighting.
No.
So, I mean, she doesn't seem to shy away from confrontation at any other point.
No.
And she's like, I don't think I should pay for this. And Mona's like, I think you should. And Angela says, okay.
Yeah, and that's the end of that.
Yeah, and then this has nothing to do with anything else that happens with Mona in the episode. So it's very confusing.
It was a way to eat up time while Tony was on the phone with Mrs. Rossini getting
I guess so,
the details. I don't know. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, it was just kind of... I feel like it either was going to factor in some other way in this story, and then it got cut, or for some reason they were going to have to take Tony's car to Brooklyn because hers was damaged. It just seems odd to have this whole conversation that has nothing to do with the story.
That's a good point. They must have gone in the van.
Yeah, unless she still has the station wagon, or they went in the Jag because...
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, so the phone rings, and Tony answers it. It's Mrs. Rossini, and she is inviting them to come to Brooklyn for Thanksgiving. At first, Angela doesn't want to go. She's like, Brooklyn's your place. I'm going to feel so out of place. I won't know anyone. And Mona says, well, think of the Pilgrims and the Indians.
I know.
You're supposed to meet new people and invite strangers into the bosom of your family on Thanksgiving.
Because that's what happened at the first Thanksgiving.
Yes.
When the Pilgrims.
It's funny now, they must teach a more realistic view of what happened to kids, because our kids, I think, have a pretty decent grasp on Columbus Day and Thanksgiving at this point.
That they didn't sit around a table eating turkey.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, they may have shared a meal, but then they did horrific things to them afterwards. So she's trying to get Angela to agree to go to Brooklyn also. And she's saying all these grand things about, how Thanksgiving is about meeting new people, inviting them into your home, blah, 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 but I won't be there. I have other plans. And what is her other plan?
She's going to be in the Thanksgiving Day, Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade.
Yes. So Angela's upset that they're not going to see her on Thanksgiving. And Mona's like, oh, you'll see me. She's like, I'm very good friends with the cameraman. So he's promised to get a few good close-ups. So you'll definitely see me. Now, Tony finally convinces Angela to go. He's like, listen, I really have to go because Mrs. Rossini says she has a big surprise for me. And Angela's like, what's the surprise? And Mona says if he knew what the surprise was, it wouldn't be a surprise.
Yeah.
So Angela...
Thanks, Mona.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom. So Mona's like, come on, Angela, just cut loose and go and have a good time. So Angela agrees that she's going to go. Now, again... If you notice in the background, Mona just starts eating a banana. And I was thinking about that, I wonder if Katherine Hellman was just hungry, because there's really no reason for Mona to be eating a banana in the background.
I know, it's just random.
Maybe she just didn't get dinner or something and had a little snack. Because normally you don't want to eat in a scene unless you absolutely have to, because then if they continue to do the scene, you have to continue to eat whatever it is.
Right, and a banana would be hard.
Right, because it's not...
You eat it down, and you have to eat
hard,
it over again and over again.
For continuity. But they did run these scenes just one time a lot, or maybe twice. I don't know. I've heard that it was unless there was a big mess up, you just kept it and you kept moving. So maybe she felt confident that she would be able to finish this banana and not have to worry about it afterwards. So Tony's like, listen, we'll even say that you made the mousse. And she's like, I did make the mousse. And he's like, not really, and we haven't finished it. So they pick it back up from where they left off. And he's like, okay, this time you gotta carefully hand me the egg. And as she's handing it to him, he smacks her hands together and it goes everywhere. And They're very playful. He's pretending to run away from her in the kitchen. He's holding up a chair so she can't get to him. Mona's like putting up the newspaper over her head so that she doesn't get egg off of Angela. So they're having fun. They're just showing how comfortable they are with each other and that they can play around. So now we're at Mrs. Rossini's house. I'm assuming this is the next day. And Mrs. Rossini is super excited for them to come over. She's making sure everything looks perfect. She notices that her father, it must be her husband's father, because it's Papa Joseph Rossini. He's sleeping in the chair, but she just goes to check and make sure that he's not dead.
Because he looks like he is. And if you freeze the episode here, that's the picture that comes up in the Internet Movie Database.
Oh, I know, it's him sleeping.
Looking like he's passed away in the chair.
And they have him on the wrong person.
Right.
IMDb's
it works
all
on the
messed
computer.
Up. Oh, it does?
Yeah,
the
computer's the right picture.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but the TV isn't.
That's funny. So that's Papa Rossini, who is Joseph Rossini. He's played by Al Ruscio. And he had a lot of credits on IMDb, starting in 1958 with Gunsmoke.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. Who are you talking? Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It is messed up,
right?
It
is the wrong
Yeah,
picture.
it says Rick Mancini
yes.
on the picture.
And that's wrong. I thought that was okay.
Yeah. He started acting in Gunsmoke in 1958, at least on screen. Some of his bigger roles were Barney Miller. He was on Days of Our Lives for a while. Life Goes On. And he passed away in 2013. So, and you said you recognized him from an episode of Seinfeld?
No. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Yes. Now I'm confusing myself. Yes. He is the... there's an episode of Seinfeld where he is... at one point, for some reason, he's the new owner of the coffee shop that they go to, and Elaine goes down there and notices that he only hires all large-breasted women.
Right.
So she tries to get him for discrimination.
Right.
She applies for a job, and he's like, "We're not interested," and looks her up and down. We're not interested, and she's like, "I got you." Turns out that all the waitresses are his daughters.
Right. Yeah, it's only family.
So that's how I know him. That's how I know all these people is Seinfeld.
Right. But it's funny how many of them are in Seinfeld.
Right. Like they passed through the 80s.
Yeah. So
bit parts, and then they went right into the 90s.
Yeah. So Tony is super... Papa's alive. He was just asleep.
Matter of fact, there's another, later on in this episode, another person in this episode that was in Seinfeld.
So Tony's very excited to see everyone. He's joking with Mrs. Rossini, "Did you get new furniture?" She says, "No, I just took the plastic off." Now, this set is a reused set from Tony's father's apartment.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, and you can see, if you look in the background, that, alcove back there.
Yeah.
That was in Tony's father's apartment, but it was in a different position. I think the door was on that side.
Well, I think they flipped the room or something.
Yeah, they did kind of flip the room. But there was a kitchen on one side.
The main door was to the right, and now the front door, and this one's to the left.
Yeah. But I guess they just, reuse walls or elements of it. Now, we meet Joey, Joe, and we've already met Papa, who's Joseph. So there are 3 Joeys in this family. And that just makes me laugh because in my own family, my dad and my brother are both named Joseph, but not so much Joseph. Angelo. There are so many Angelos in my family. So it is just kind of a funny Italian thing where, you have so many of those names and they're shared between family. So Joey Rossini is played by Ray Boom Boom Mancini, who we discovered was an actual boxer.
Yes. Well, I actually knew that as soon as I saw his name.
Yeah.
I remember him.
So he's playing Mrs. Rossini's son, and you found an interesting story out about him.
Yes, the story that I found out about him is, and I guess it happened before this episode, in one of his matches, he hit somebody and they passed out on the ground with a head injury, got knocked out, and then died days later. And
that's awful.
I know. Well, you asked.
I mean, it is an interesting story, but it's awful.
He died days later, and then the referee of the match committed suicide.
And did they say it was because of this?
I don't know. They just said weeks later
okay.
he committed suicide. I don't know if it was a result of what he saw in the ring
Right.
And then the boxer who passed away's mother committed suicide like a year later or something.
Oh my goodness.
And Ray Mancini said, pretty much like not a day goes by, he doesn't think about it, how traumatized, he's very traumatized by what happened.
Yeah, that's gotta suck.
But yeah, he's a professional boxer.
Yeah, and he did some other acting. I noticed he had like quite a few small parts throughout the 80s. Not really anything I recognized, but he hasn't done any work since 2015. So we meet Joey. We meet Joey's wife, Teresa. She's pregnant, or as Angela says, you're with child. Yes. So already Angela's a little
you're with
awkward.
child, and Tony's like, good eye, Angela.
Yeah.
I mean, this woman, it looks like she's about 10 months pregnant.
Yeah. So Papa asks, is this Tony's new girlfriend, referring to Angela? And they explain that she's his boss. And
I like that that Miss Rossini says, Papa,
yeah.
this isn't a girl. It's his boss.
Yeah.
Like, what?
And Tony's like, well, she's my boss, my friend, and my friendly boss.
Right.
So, and he says that she brought a moose, but Papa says he doesn't eat meat.
No, that actually made me laugh out loud. He's like, I don't eat red meat. He walks away.
Now, Jonathan always loves going to Brooklyn. So Samantha asks, she asked Joey, can I show Jonathan your pigeons on the roof? I forgot to look up if that's like a Brooklyn thing to have pigeons on the roof. Like maybe they were
sure there is
carrier pigeons or something.
I don't know, but I bet.
Or they were just his pets. Like I don't.
Or just the fact that you could all the buildings are several stories. You go up there, the pigeons probably hang out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So he's like, yeah, go ahead, just don't let them fall off. And Jonathan thinks he's talking about the pigeons, so he's like, well, they can fly. And he's like, no, not the pigeons, you. And he calls him Goomba.
Goomba.
And then Samantha also says Goomba. So that was really cute.
I know, and I was worried when I'm like, I'm going to have to look that up.
And it's going to be something terrible.
Racist or something.
Yeah, no.
But it's not bad. It is basically, the word Goomba is an Italian phrase, obviously, meaning like friend or like godfather.
Okay.
So, and then
like paisan.
Like a paisan.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's terrible.
No,
and then it also, like I said, the mafia end up like using the word later on, and it also could be like an associate or an accomplice.
Okay.
Or a senior member of a criminal gang.
That's why we remember hearing it on The Sopranos.
Right. That's exactly where I remember it from, which is why I figured it was racist.
Right.
In a way. So, anyway.
So Jonathan goes with Samantha up on the roof, and somebody makes a comment about how he's such a sweet boy. And Angela's like, oh, thank you. And she just, she sticks out. Like you can tell she's like really on edge. She's uncomfortable. She doesn't really know what to do. But Tony is super excited, and he's like, oh, you're fitting in great. You're fitting in great. Don't
Never
worry.
mind. Her child's going to the roof of the building.
I know. Yeah, he's already been running around in Brooklyn.
I guess so.
So maybe she's okay with it now.
I guess so.
And so Mrs. Rossini comes out and says, your surprise is in the kitchen. And Tony's excited because he's like, oh, I bet it's her stuffed artichokes. She knows how much I love them.
I know.
But it is not. Out comes Gina Bonafetti.
All the way from Jersey City.
Yes, all the way from Jersey City. She's played by Rosemary Thomas. She has not acted since 1988. And the only thing I could really find that she was Bold and the Beautiful that she did a stint on. But yes, so she comes out. His surprise is actually a woman. And Angela says, that's some stuffed artichoke.
Yeah, that's good.
So Tony's pretty surprised to see her. You get the feeling that she's someone that he knew when she was younger, because he asked, like, oh, what happened to the little girl with the scraped up knees and pigtails?
Yeah.
So this must have been someone who was like younger when he was, early 20s or a teenager or something. But she shows him her knees and that they're all healed up now.
Yeah.
And he gives her a big hug. It's kind of awkward, and Angela's just sort of standing there.
And he gives her a hug, and then once he gives her a hug, he's like, "Oh, you were all grown up."
Right. Yeah.
Like, oh, I felt the boobies against my chest. You're all grown up now. This is bizarre.
Tony.
It's kind of an odd.
Yeah. So, and Angela's like, perhaps you'd also like to see her appendix scar. So Angela's already now she's on edge, and now she's already a bit irked by like how much Tony is fawning over Gina.
Well, and the fact that there's somebody brought a woman for Tony too.
Right. Yeah. Because it's not like
Hey, I got you a woman.
I know, because it's like this weird dynamic where, she kind of goes there. They kind of go there as a family, but they're not really together. And Mrs. Rossini doesn't at all see Angela that way. So, I mean, I'm guessing this girl was probably like asking about Tony, and Mrs. Rossini thought this would be a great opportunity to.
Yes, I mean, this was
surprise.
Again. It is somebody he knew
right
back in the day. So I could see, surprise, this person's here.
So now we get to dinner, or whenever you eat Thanksgiving. Like, I feel like some people, I guess, maybe eat at like 2 or 3. They probably are eating it early because of the mention of the parade. So,
well, yeah, but even that for the parade, have to be like 10 a.m.
Well, yeah, but don't they replay it right after?
I don't know. I guess so. Yeah,
I think so.
I guess. Yeah. We were talking about that earlier. I don't know.
So dinner is just like. It's so not Angela's normal deal. Like, it's not even a real dining room. They're all sitting in the middle of the living room. The tables are all mismatched. The chairs are mismatched. There's a ton of food everywhere. Everybody's really loud and rowdy. And it's like, Angela's such a fish out of water, and Tony is very much at home. Like, the girl who went to Nantucket for the summers probably did not... had a formal dining room, didn't have people yelling and screaming at dinner. And the women are very much waiting on the men. So especially Gina with Tony. She's like answering what he wants before he can even get it out of his mouth. Do you want another ravioli, another glass of wine? She's even like patting his mouth at one point.
I know. It's a little odd.
And then Mrs. Rossini's husband, who I thought was odd that we didn't really meet up until this scene, he's like, "Hey, Carmela, I'm like an orphan down here.
Right.
Like, come on down here and give me some more potatoes."
Right.
So she hops into action, runs down there, and gives him some potatoes.
I can't get his own potatoes.
Right. Now, this actor is Rick Mancini.
Yes.
And the interesting thing is that he had a small part in Ghostbusters, and so did Rhoda Gemignani, who plays Mrs. Rossini. So I wonder if that's just a coincidence or if they knew each other. So she's like, "Oh, I don't know where he puts it all," as she puts more potatoes on his plate. And the son's like, "I know where," and pokes him in the belly. So Mrs. Rossini smacks her son on the head.
But hang on.
Oh, you're going to tell me what the word is?
Well, he says, "Look at that La Panza."
Yeah, so what does that mean?
What is that? It took me a bit to find it, the definition, but the only thing I could come up with is a panza is a belly in Spanish.
Oh, well, it must be belly in Italian then. They're really similar languages.
That's what it says. So
yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, like, look at the La Panza or whatever. Yeah. Maybe that means like, look at that belly.
Belly, yeah.
That's all. Totally. I thought it was going to be something, else, like really insulting, but it wasn't.
Look at that.
Even
fat
more
gut.
insulting, right? So, but that's all it was.
Yeah.
Thought everybody needed to know that.
So she smacks him on the head, and if you listen, they didn't get Angela in the scene, but her gasp is hilarious. Like, you can't see her do it, but you just know that she's completely like appalled that this kid just got completely smacked at the table.
Well, then he gets smacked in the head, and then Tony reaches over and punches him in the arm across. At least reaches across. Angela's just like, whoa,
right.
Angela being Angela.
Yeah, and Joey's like, "Why am I always getting hit?" Which had to be like a callback to him being
a boxer.
A boxer, yeah. Also thought it was funny that they're having ravioli and like other traditional Italian food, but I guess they are also having turkey because there's mashed potatoes.
Yeah, maybe that's I don't know.
You make ravioli with anything when you're Italian, I guess.
Because it goes with anything.
Right. So Jonathan's like, "Oh man, I like this." So he says to Samantha, "Hey, get me some." What does he say? I don't remember. But
get me more ravioli or something. That was funny. Yeah. That was really funny.
And Samantha's like, "Get it yourself." And he's like, "Oh, I guess you have to be Italian."
Yeah.
That was cute.
It was just funny that that was her response.
Yes. Good for you, Samantha.
That's right.
Now, it comes up that Angela is in advertising. And Tony's like, she's not just in advertising. She's the president of Wallace and McQuaid. And one lady says, or Teresa says, oh, you must type fast.
I know.
And Angela's like, well, I'm more of like a manager. You know, I tell people what to do. And Gina's like, oh, I could never tell a man what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for you, Gina. And Tony's like, well, Angela's great at it.
I know.
And you can tell Angela's like, oh, thanks, Tony. But he means it in a sweet way, you know. But I think she's already feeling a little insecure, so that probably didn't help. Now, dinner's over.
Yep.
And all the men get up to go sit in the living room.
Yeah, time for the men to retire to the living room.
Exactly. The women cooked the whole meal, and now they're going to clean up. So Tony, being Tony, tries to grab a plate and head into the kitchen. And Papa's like, where are you going?
Right. He's like, you kidding me?
Yeah. And then Tony remembers, oh, he's in Brooklyn, and it's different here. So he's like, oh, yeah, I'll come sit down. So he hands Angela his plate. And Angela's like, okay. She gets up and starts to head to the kitchen. But Gina cuts her off, and she's like, oh, I'll take it for you. But Angela's like, if I can boss men around, I can take a plate into the kitchen. But she can't take a plate into the kitchen because
we know what happens next.
Yeah, as soon as she gets into the kitchen, she manages to drop the plate, and Mrs. Rossini escorts her out immediately. So, and I love how Mrs. Rossini is like, oh, it's no problem. We'll replace it when we go back to Sicily.
Next time we go back to Sicily.
I know. Poor Mrs. Rossini.
Oh, yeah. Her very rare Italian plate is broken.
So Tony and the men are sitting around. They're going to put the parade on. And they start, oh no, they haven't put it on yet, but they're just sitting around unbuttoning their pants.
Yes.
And even little Jonathan gets in on it because they're all so full from this amazing meal that they must unbutton their pants. And Angela looks like she's in a house of horrors. Like she doesn't know where to look. She's like trying to hide against the wall.
I know. Bunch of grown men with their pants undone.
I know. And Tony gets up and he's so excited. He's just so excited to share this whole day with Angela. And he's like, isn't this great? It's so much fun. And she's like, no, it's not fun. And I'm not going to talk to you until you button your pants.
I know.
So she basically says, you know, like these women did everything. They made this entire meal. No one helped them. And now they're cleaning everything. And all the men are just sitting around and doing nothing. Like, this is not at all what it's like at home for Angela. And I would imagine it would have been... I'm sure that, like, her mom did a lot for her dad when they were younger because her dad was probably working a lot. But I guess just sort of the audacity of these men is what's really getting to Angela.
Yeah.
And she says, you know, I just feel very uncomfortable. And Tony's like, well, that's why you got to unbutton your pants.
He reaches for her pants.
And she's, get your hands off my pants.
I think he misunderstood.
He did, yeah. So Mrs. Rossini comes out and says that Gina's getting ready to bring out dessert. So Tony's like, you know what, Angela, you're right. I'm going to go in and I'm going to help Gina in the kitchen. So he goes in there. So they turn on the parade. And
lo and behold.
Wait, which one? Mona or Betty White?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm skipping ahead.
That's okay.
Go for it. You go.
No, so the voice of the parade announcer is Betty White, assuming she's playing Bobby Barnes, who was her character in
nice throwback.
Eye on Angela. Yeah. So at this point, the Golden Girls had started, but I don't think it had been on that long. So it was nice. It's cool that Betty White came back and did this little voiceover part. So they're all watching the parade, and it's got to be the replay or they've caught the end, one or the other.
That's a good point. I mean,
because it's when
the
Santa
ending would
comes
still
out.
be at noon.
Yeah.
So it'd still be the fact that they ate dinner early, but
right. Or it's
Santa
4 and
comes
they're
at like
watching
12
the
o'clock.
replay.
Yeah. So if the replay, that could be 3 o'clock. I'll give them that.
Right. I know. I think we're a little too stuck on the fact
I know.
that
I
the
can't get
parade
past
is-
it. The parade's on when you wake up. That's it.
It is. It starts at 9, right?
And even since we've moved, we don't get it live. We get a lame replay.
Right. Yeah.
So it's taped for us. Not that it matters, I guess.
So, okay. So, and they're supposed to be seeing Santa, but all the shots are of Mona. And Mona is dressed as a little elf on the float.
Yeah.
And it's like Mona from one angle, Mona from the other, and Bobby Barnes is like where is Santa? Oh, there's an elf. There's another elf. Oh, that's the same elf. So
the cameraman really liked her.
Angela's like, oh, Tony has to see this. So she gets up and she runs into the kitchen so she can go get Tony.
Mistake.
Yeah. Tony and Gina are kissing in the kitchen. And she looks shocked. I'm surprised that they didn't hear her slam into the door in the kitchen.
I know. So loud.
But she just quietly goes back out into the living room. And she looks kind of upset. Like, I can't really tell if it's not really like, I don't know if this is necessarily a jealous upset more than like, this day is really starting to suck. Because she didn't expect for this to happen and she's not having a great time. So now the next morning, Angela's in the kitchen reading the paper. Mona comes in and she's like, oh, did you happen to see the parade at all yesterday? And Angela's like, yes, we saw you. Because millions of children now think Santa's a redhead.
With cleavage.
Right. And Mona's like, wow, are you upset about something? And Angela doesn't want to tell her at first. And Mona's like, okay, fine, I'm going shopping. And she mentions that she's going to the after Thanksgiving Day sales.
It's the day after Thanksgiving Day sale.
Oh, is that what she says?
Yeah, the day after the Thanksgiving Day sale.
Oh. So, yeah, like, I guess I didn't remember day after Thanksgiving sales that long ago. But I did look up that Black Friday, the actual term, was first mentioned in like 1951.
Oh, okay. I was wondering. I've actually looked it up now.
Yeah, and it wasn't what I thought it was. So I've always thought that Black Friday means that businesses make enough money that they go into the black and not in the red. But when it was first used in this instance, it was like in Philadelphia, and it was because the sales were so rowdy, and so anytime there was something that was like considered negative, it would get like the term black, like Black Saturday, Black Friday. So it was like a Black Friday because it was going to be one heck of a day because people were getting rowdy. So even in 1951, people got rowdy over the day after Thanksgiving Day sales.
Yeah. I can't move usually. I couldn't even attempt to get rowdy the day after
I know,
Thanksgiving.
we've never really participated in them. And every year they get more insane, but I'm sure, I don't know what's going to happen this year. Be interesting to see soon.
Oh, it'll be crowds with masks on in the Walmart fighting over television.
Yeah, I guess so. So Angela's like, fine, I'll tell you. And she tells Mona, I saw a side of Tony yesterday that I've never seen before. And Mona's quite intrigued. But,
of course.
But Angela's
Which
like,
side was it?
Backside? But Angela's like, no, we've misjudged him. And I'm going to go a little deep here into why I think Angela's so upset about this. And my thought is that even though she may not necessarily, I mean, there probably was a little bit of jealousy of seeing Tony with Gina. But I don't know that she's necessarily recognized yet, you know, the feelings that she has for him. But she does know that there's an attraction. And she has mentioned several times that he's like the sweetest, most sensitive guy that she's ever known. Mm-hmm. So I think now seeing that side to him probably makes her feel like, oh, you know, there have been times where I've thought, like, could we have a relationship or could we date? And then now she's like, I'm not at all what he's looking for. Like, this is the woman that he is actually looking for. Mm-hmm. So I think it probably hurts her in that respect where she, you know, really thought that he could be somebody who would be able to be with somebody like her. And now she's thinking that she's wrong.
That's a hot take. No, I mean,
I've probably thought about it too long.
Well, I just, I mean, I think more to add on to that, I think that, yes, she's probably jealous, but also I feel like in a way where, yes, that's not the Tony that I thought I knew, but also a lot of the times when she gets jealous, because it's happened before, she gets jealous or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
I just feel like she knows that's not the woman for him. So I also think there's that, like,
oh yeah, that's a good
that
point.
angle too. You know what I mean? Like, he shouldn't be getting involved with that person, right. And I care about him enough to know. So
yeah,
but the other thing is, this has happened before, where there's always this. Oh, here's this side of Tony, and then he proves her wrong.
Right.
Like, this has happened once or twice before.
Just like Tony, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, there's a side of Tony, and then in the end, he ends up being the nice guy again.
Right.
So, anyway, that's enough of that.
So she's basically telling Mona, like, you know, there was this woman and she waited on him hand and foot and he loved it. Like, he was really into it. And
again, I just think he was in his element, you know, but he went too far.
Right. And, like, you know how people sometimes act different when they're around different people.
Yeah.
And especially people act different when they are home with their families. And I think that's really kind of his family.
Right.
So he does act different there. So Mona's like, oh, are you telling me that men like to be pampered? Like, she's not really surprised at all that Tony would have. Right. Yeah. But she's also not very supportive here. Like, Mona's just sort of like, oh, of course he wants to be pampered. And you're silly for not recognizing that before now. And Mona's like, oh, well, where is he? And he hasn't come home yet from Brooklyn.
No.
So here's the end. So here's the end of Angela's shitty night. She went there for Thanksgiving. She felt out of place. A bunch of men unbuttoned their pants. He made out with some girl.
She dropped a plate.
Right. And then she got to take all the kids home, back to Brooklyn by herself. I mean, back to Connecticut by herself, so that he could stay there and go out with the guys.
Yeah, party with his buddies.
Yeah. And
that's awful nice of her.
Right. Like, I mean, I love Tony, but if he would have, since he did invite her as a guest there, he probably should have gone home and taken the kids home. But anyway, and it's not like, if they were in a relationship or whatever, and it was sort of like, hey, can I stay here for the night, then it would be more accepted. But she really, this was only the second time she'd even been there. But that's neither here nor there.
Right.
Anyway, so she's like, I don't know, but I do know that it's 9 a.m. and Tony Micelli should be at work. And he flies in the door. Right,
immediately. Yeah. Immediately she's mad he's not at work, even though it's Thanksgiving weekend.
Right. And he's like, here I am. How's everything going? Anybody want juice or coffee? And he asks how everything went last night. And Angela's like, it's fine. But if there had been a fire, I would have had to carry 2 children out of the house. Now, that's a little dramatic.
Right, a little bit, yeah.
So he's like, okay, well, next time I decide to stay out all night, I'll make sure they sleep in the yard. Now, the phone rings, and it's Gina. And Angela says to Mona, she probably knitted him a sweater while he went out.
Right.
And Mona's like, that's ridiculous. No one can knit a sweater in one night. But Tony's like, oh, this girl knitted me a pair of socks.
I know.
Yeah.
And then she's like, I told you. Mona's like, I told you.
So he's on the phone with Gina while he asks Angela if he can have some time off that weekend. And he would like 48 hours off. And Angela wants to say no, but Ramona reminds her, you know, all your other employees are having a 4-day weekend this weekend, which is a good point.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And can he have some time off?
Yeah.
When is he off? He can't be off on the weekends?
I mean, he's got to be off on... I mean, he can't work all the time.
Well, yeah, it's just funny that he has to ask permission to be off on the weekend.
Right. But I guess he just had, maybe because he was going to, like, be completely gone. Because I can't imagine he does stuff all day on the weekends. Anyway, so...
We're reading into this.
I know. I mean, it's the point of doing this podcast, though.
That's true.
Kind of break these things down. So,
what are Tony's days off? Right. That's really what we need to know, because he doesn't seem to have any.
No, I don't. It's like Sunday and like every other Tuesday, maybe. So Tony's totally cheesing on the phone with Gina, you know, making a big deal of saying goodbye to her. He's excited that he's going to get to see her that weekend. And Angela's just annoyed. So she walks out, and Mona's like, oh, how was Thanksgiving? And Tony's like, it was great. It's the complete opposite of what she got from Angela. It was great. The food was great. And, you know, Tony says how taken he was with Gina. She makes the best ravioli. Just like my wife used to make. And she's the sweetest. But he tells Mona that he got the impression that Angela didn't really like her very much. And Mona's like, well... You know, it doesn't matter what she thinks because it's your affair. So I can't tell what Mona's motivation is here. Like, is she just trying to get information out of Tony as to what he's thinking?
A little bit of that, and probably a little bit of go for it, I guess.
Yeah, I do think she is. But I mean, we know that Mona wants him with Angela, but maybe not quite yet. So she's like, it's your affair. And Tony's like, whoa, well, Gina isn't the type of girl you fool around with. She's the type of girl you marry.
Right.
And this is another, I feel like, theme that will carry through with Tony, is he very much has the girls that you fool around with and then the girls that you marry. And unfortunately for Angela, she gets stuck in the girls that you marry.
I guess so.
Because he puts off fooling around with her for the longest amount of time. When he, like, sleeps with anyone else who's walking by.
Right, anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody but Angela.
So it's the night of the date, and Tony's at Gina's place. He's very much enjoying himself. He's saying that the food was great, the company's great. And he's kind of hinting around if they need to save anything for the Rossinis. And she's like, no, they're out of town for the weekend.
Yep.
So maybe he's starting to change his mind about fooling around. Maybe he just needs to have good intentions for this. So she's like, okay, well, I'm going to go into the kitchen and clean up and make dessert. So she gets up, goes in the kitchen, and Tony's like, you know what? I'm going to follow her in there. So he picks up the wine glasses, goes in there to help and just to be around her. So when he gets in there, though, she's like, what are you doing in here? And he's like, well, I was going to help. And she's like, don't worry, I'll take care of all this.
Well, before he comes into the kitchen, he's, of course, walking through the door.
Yep.
Humming, wait a moment. Wait a moment.
That damn song.
Which I can't find anywhere again. Even though I was just watching the closed captioning that just says humming an upbeat tune.
Yeah, it doesn't.
So apparently I have that much information on Wait a Moment. It's an upbeat song according to closed captioning.
But he's not humming because he's clearly singing words.
He's just singing this song that I can't find anywhere.
So he's trying to be playful with her, and he's like, okay, well, you clean up, and then I'll make dessert. What are we having? And she says zabaione, which I think...
Oh, yeah, we looked that up before,
yeah, that's
right?
the same dessert that he made for Nick.
And
must be Tony Danza favorite. So she's like, I don't want your help. Like, just go sit out there and, I don't know, look pretty, and I'll be back. But he's like, no, and he goes and gets some eggs.
It's nature to help in the kitchen.
Yeah, it is. And plus, like, he just kind of wants to be around her. Why does he want to just go sit out in the living room?
Because that's what you do. He should be sitting there with his pants unbuttoned.
Right, his pants unbuttoned, reading the paper or something.
Serves two purposes that night. Because you're full already.
And then your pants are already unbuttoned when she comes back out.
Right.
Yeah, that's creepy. So So he goes in the fridge, he gets some eggs out, and he's dancing around with the eggs, and she's like, stop it, you're going to drop them. He's like, oh, no, I'm not. And so he puts it in her hand, and then he smacks her hands together, just like he did with Angela. But while Angela thought it was funny, she does not think it's funny.
No, she loses her shit.
Yeah.
You know what's funny is in this scene, a side note, is he's like doing that thing where he's flipping the egg around.
Yeah.
And I was watching it earlier thinking, I wonder if it's like a prop egg or something, you know what I mean? Like not a real egg. Because he's really like throwing it in the air and catching it. But the scene never cuts and he puts it in her hand and then smashes it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, that's a real egg.
And there's a moment where he does almost drop it. Like one of the times he's doing the kind of like rolls up into his arm a bit. So,
yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's a real egg.
Yeah, you're right. Because here it goes. Smash. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he's even like picking up the chair and stuff, like playing with her like he did with Angela.
Right.
Like hold her back.
Recreating what he had with Angela earlier.
So she's like, no, get out. We'll be out there in a moment and then we'll have some fun. So he's like,
she basically
all right.
told him to wait a moment. Wait a moment. Sorry. I had to.
That was funny. So he's like, okay. And so he goes back out in the living room. So now we cut back to Angela's house.
One of my favorite scenes in this. Kind of funny.
And Mona is replaying her scene from the parade over and over again on the television.
I love when they do these with the fourth wall of the, like you see the wallpaper of the television that you never see because they're trying to show the television because it's where the audience is.
Yes.
I love when they do that.
And I can't tell who is less enthused, Grover or Angela. Angela is just asleep. She's passed out. Her glasses are all askew.
I know.
And Mona's like, wake up, this is the best part. So she's like, Mother, we've been watching this all night long. So Mona's like, you know what? I'm taking my VHS tape out.
Yeah.
And if you look on the coffee table, there is a giant remote that has like the wire.
Yeah, she was holding it earlier.
Yes.
It's a cord.
I remember.
I just feel like there were wireless remote controls by this point.
No.
Really?
Yeah. I remember having this. I mean, this is 1985. And I clearly remember in 1989 or so having our pop-up VCR, and it had the remote with the wire on it.
It must have been an old... when I was a kid in the 80s, we had a cable box with a remote that was wireless.
Really?
I don't remember ever having a wired remote, except when I lived in New York when I was like 4 or 5. We had
Then maybe we just didn't have a remote on our cable.
You just didn't have it.
We had a cable box.
You weren't fancy.
I guess not. We weren't.
For a while, we did have a cable box where you had to walk up to the top of it and turn the dial to change the channels. Did you have that?
No, I don't remember. No. So maybe it was just the VCR that had a wire then. I clearly remember the VCR having a wire.
Yeah.
So she gets up to leave, and she's like, come on, Grover, we're going. And Grover doesn't want to go at first until she tells him that they'll also watch the Snoopy parts.
Yeah, which is kind of funny. Yeah. And then he's ready. He's raring to go.
Right. Then little actor dog jumps down like he's supposed to and goes running out. So Angela's starting to lock up the house, turn off all the lights. She's going up to bed. Another night where she could have to carry those children out in a fire because Tony's not home. But as she's about to go up the stairs, the front door opens. So Tony does come home, and Angela's surprised to see him. She's like, I thought I wouldn't see you at all tonight. And he's like, well, I figured I should get home just in case there was a fire.
Yeah, that's just funny.
And Angela says there was a fire because she burned dinner. Somehow she set the lamb chops on fire. Like, come on, Angela, just order in.
Right.
It's like one night.
But also, if you're going to make dinner, don't try so hard. Lamb chops.
I know, yeah.
Let's dumb it down a little bit.
Spaghetti and meatballs or something. Yeah. I'm sure Tony has some sort of casserole in the freezer she could have made.
Yeah, seriously.
So she's like, well, how was your dinner? And Tony says that, it was great. There was candlelight. There was wine. Everything was fine. But then he just couldn't.
You're right. This part's kind of funny.
I know. So Angela...
Surprised they went down this road.
I know. Like, this is a pretty intimate conversation for her to try to have with him.
I know. She's, trying to...
Yeah. She's delicately trying to make him feel better because she thinks that he actually wasn't able to have sex.
Right.
And she's
Erectile
like,
dysfunction.
Lots of men have this problem. And she's like, maybe you were tired or you just had too much to drink. Or she reminded you of a distant aunt.
I know, which is so like, what? Like, it's just out there.
And I like that she also has to make sure that she mentions that she's heard it's happened from time to time, but not with her.
Right.
Right, not with me. And so he's like, no, it's not that I couldn't. He's like, it's just that I didn't.
Yeah.
Tony goes on to say that Gina's great, and she can cook, and she's a lovely girl. And Angela's like, well, that sounds like everything that you want in a woman. And Tony says, well, I thought it was, but now he's not so sure. Mm-hmm. So he's like, do I want more? Do I want less? And he says that he wants someone that he can talk to, and he wants someone who has more in their life than just taking care of him. So you can tell Angela's a bit taken aback here. Mm-hmm. And she's realizing, ooh, I still have a shot.
Right.
So she's like, someone like Meryl Streep?
Yeah, no, that was funny.
I know, and I'm wondering, where that came from. And I don't know if perhaps, back then, Judith Light was maybe compared to Meryl Streep as, the TV, because she did a lot of, dramatic TV movies.
That's interesting.
So I could see her maybe being compared to her as an actress as the TV version of Meryl Streep. Because also back then there was a very big divide between people who did TV and people who did movies, where now that's not really a thing anymore. So I just thought that was an interesting name for her to pull up. And Tony's like, yeah, someone just like her. And that was the end.
Yeah, and now all's well again because Angela realizes that Tony's not a Neanderthal after all.
Yes.
That's what I mean. Like, it always comes back to, he's actually decent.
Yeah.
When before it was overreacting to,
Right.
we've learned he's a Neanderthal.
Right.
Or his Neanderthal side.
Right. I think she just sees him as somebody who has so much more potential than just being a husband and, working in this job forever or just working some other menial job and having a woman take care of him. So I think it makes her feel good that she sees that again. Nice. So now in the tag, Mona is teaching Angela how to knit. So Angela's interested a little bit in being a little more of someone who would take care of somebody, I guess, or at least be able to knit them a pair of socks. She's not doing his fantastic job because he calls it a leg warmer for a giraffe. It's like one really long sock. And also, who knew that Mona knows how to knit?
Yeah, well, Mona.
Yeah. So the doorbell rings, and there's a man out there who's looking for Mona. And Tony's like, I don't know why, but this guy looks really familiar. And it's the guy who was playing Santa at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. And he's quite pissed off at Mona because it was his big moment and she stole a spotlight.
Yeah, she stole the show.
She did. Now the actor is Bill Irwin, who will also look familiar because we saw him in the episode Mona Got Pinned, or Mona Gets Pinned. He was the father of her boyfriend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
He's also in an episode of Seinfeld.
Oh, right. Well, who was he in that one?
He plays Jerry Jerry and George sign up to take care of the elderly people or whatever. And he's the one that Jerry goes to take care of, and Jerry brings over Kramer and all them, and the guy thinks he's stealing from them and stuff.
Yeah.
So, he was pretty old in that episode.
He's that actor that's been old in everything
I
he's done.
know. So, but yes, another Seinfeld actor.
Yeah. So he leaves, he's mad, and they're all proud of Mona. He takes off his Santa hat and he shoves it on Mona's head, and they think it's cute. And that is the end of the episode.
Yeah.
All right, so I can't remember who did rating first last time. I think I did. So you can go first.
Okay. Overall, I enjoyed the episode. I thought it was a good one. I'll give it a 7.5.
That's my same exact rating.
Oh boy, good. It was an overall good episode. It had a few laugh out loud moments. It had Ray Boom Boom Mancini.
Right.
So I can't go wrong there. It was good and had another nice little Tony and Angela moment at the end.
Yes.
So I thought that was good.
Yeah, my only annoyance with this episode is the weirdness of the storyline at the beginning that goes nowhere. But
yeah, and it's almost like that was built in so Tony could have time to be on the phone in the background.
I know, it's very odd.
And it's just such a Mona thing to do, which
that is true.
Also leads us to the other question. I guess you answered it earlier. I said they have to go to Brooklyn in the van, but maybe Angela has the station wagon.
Yes. So
something completely
that would really piss Angela off. If not only did she have to drive those kids home by herself, she had to drive it in the van that says hot to trot. Well, he took the train probably.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah, they have actual mass transit.
Who's the boss around here? Me? Or my mother? Or maybe it's you?
I went with Tony as the boss in this episode. And because, he was faced with a woman that should have been perfect for him. And at first he kind of thought she could be, but then he realized that this necessarily isn't what he's looking for anymore. But nobody really helped him come to that decision. He came to it on his own. So I went with Tony.
Oh, that's good. It is actually who I went with as well.
Nice. We matched up tonight.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Who else? Mona?
I know,
she was
really,
at
there really
the
wasn't.
Christmas parade.
Yeah.
Jonathan was walking around the living room with his pants down, or pants unbuttoned. No, I really, Angela was kind of at it. She didn't really have it together that episode when they went to the Rossinis. She was all uptight.
Yeah.
So yes, it would have to be Tony because the thing about it is I felt like he he was trying to make everybody happy no matter what. Like, he wanted to go see Miss Rossini. He was excited about going back to the old neighborhood. And he was trying to be one of the guys at Miss Rossini's house, but also still trying to bridge the gap between the Rossinis and Angela. So, and then even though you're right, he thought he found the woman of his dreams, and turned out not being that. And then he knew he had to get back home and, patch things up with Angela. So, yes, Tony was running things. He was the boss.
Yep. Nice. Okay, well, you can reach us at Who's the Boss Podcast on Instagram, or Who's the Boss Pod 1 on Twitter, or the Who's the Boss Podcast page on Facebook. You can send us a direct message about anything we missed or anything you want us to discuss, or you can go to anchor.fm/WTB podcast, and there you can leave a voice message. Now, next...
Please, if anyone knows where Wait a Moment
yes,
comes from, leave us a voicemail or something. Let me know, because I'm still looking for that song.
Yes.
Because I know Tony has sung... he's done shows where he does like Frank Sinatra style shows.
Right.
It's a little, anyway, it's not quite Sinatra. It is Tony Micelli.
No, I really do think it's Tony Danza original, but maybe it has been sung somewhere and we just haven't found it yet.
Yeah, we'll have to find it.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
The next episode we're going to cover is The Prodigal Father-in-Law, which is when Nick Milano gets out of jail.
Oh, I remember this episode, actually.
Yeah. We started watching the beginning of it a little bit after we watched this one.
He gets out of jail. Yeah, not when, right, because we did the one where he's going to jail.
Yes, yeah, we already did that one. So he's like up for parole or whatever, and I started getting invested in it, but I was like, I can't watch yet.
Yeah, it gets confusing. I can't do that.
And another thing I want to say is that if you're interested in more Who's the Boss discussion, there's also a fun group on Facebook called Who's the Boss resource, and that's where I've gotten a lot of good information about different behind the scenes stuff. It used to be a website. The website's now defunct, but they've just kind of put a Facebook group up where they're adding a lot of the same information. All right, so do we have a song?
Yes, we do. This is the Who's the Boss theme song performed by B.J. Hines.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and tell all your friends and give you a big pat on the back.
There's a time for love and a time for living. Take a chance and face the wind. An open road and a road that's hidden. Brand new life around the bend. There were times I've lost a dream or two. I found a trail and at the end was you. There's a path to take and a path untaken. The choice is up to you, my friend. An open road and a road that's hidden. A brand new life, brand new